You believe in knights, right? Those noble warriors in shining armor, protectors of the weak, symbols of honor and valor. But what if I told you that beautiful image is a lie? What if the true story of medieval knights is far stranger and more astonishing than you can imagine, and their very existence defied all known laws of nature and logic? From childhood, we're taught to picture the valiant knight as if it's an undeniable truth from history books. We see him in gleaming plate mail, atop a powerful steed, visor proudly raised, ready to charge into battle for ideals of justice, honor, and righteousness. These romantic tales, crafted by historians, artists, and writers, have become an inseparable part of our understanding of the Middle Ages, an era of bravery and nobility. Knights are presented as paragons of courage, embodiments of Christian virtues, and champions of the weak, the very foundation of feudal society. However, a closer look at these familiar images reveals striking inconsistencies and mysteries that official science tends to ignore. Modern experiments, where people wear actual medieval armor, showed that even a few hours in a full suit of knightly armor is incredibly difficult. The body overheats, one quickly becomes dehydrated and exhausted, feeling severely unwell. Yet we are persistently told that knights spent days, even weeks, in these metal suits, that they slept in them, embarked on long campaigns, and fought continuously. A simple question arises: how is this even possible if our human bodies are simply not designed for such extreme trials? Metal plates weighing tens of pounds, a full suit could be 66 to 110 pounds or more, not only chafe the skin raw, but also hinder normal blood circulation, restrict breathing, and limit movement. Every action becomes incredibly difficult and energy-consuming. Imagine a marathon runner who runs every day but also carries a heavy load, constantly enduring pain. It seems unbelievable. Historians, unfortunately, often skirt around these inconvenient facts as if they don't exist. They resort to general phrases about tradition, the harsh conditions of the era, and the incredible fortitude of medieval warriors. But can this truly be a complete explanation for such blatant contradictions with human physiology? Or does something far more interesting, astonishing, and even terrifying lie hidden behind these common narratives? Something that doesn't fit into our usual historical understanding and demands a completely new perspective on the past. The deeper we delve into medieval records, military texts, and even knightly romances, the more questions arise about their tactics and the strange, often seemingly pointless rules of engagement. For instance, why could the death or capture of just a single knight, even the most important one, lead to the instantaneous collapse of an entire army, to its immediate surrender? In any other war, losing a commanding officer is certainly a blow, but the battle usually continues, command is taken over by the next in rank, and the army fights on. However, medieval chronicles are full of stories where vast armies simply surrendered as soon as their leading knight was defeated, captured, or killed. It's as if armies fought not for ideals, land, a king, or faith, but solely for the person or entity encased in the armor. Even stranger, almost mystical, seems the unwritten yet strictly observed law. Common soldiers, footmen, were forbidden from touching a knight. Only another knight could capture him or deliver a killing blow. Ordinary warriors, armed with spears, axes, or bows, even with a clear numerical advantage, would not attempt to attack an armored knight. This rule was so strictly adhered to that later, as the number of knights declined, their role on the battlefield, in a sense, shifted to standard-bearers. And here another equally puzzling detail emerges. The loss of the standard, seemingly just a piece of cloth with insignia, also meant total defeat and immediate surrender of the army. Why would an army of thousands surrender simply because a flag fell? What crucial significance did this piece of cloth hold? Perhaps this points to an ancient, long-forgotten ritual or a mystical connection whose meaning was lost over centuries and became incomprehensible to us, modern people. But the most astonishing aspect is the battles themselves. Many accounts describe multi-hour or even multi-day duels between a few knights,
sometimes one-on-one, while entire armies stood by simply observing the proceedings. No large-scale maneuvers, no flanking attacks, no use of siege engines or complex tactical schemes. Just a duel between a few armored figures, the outcome of which, like a judgment of fate, determined the destiny of thousands. This is utterly unlike the warfare we are accustomed to, where the goal is to inflict maximum damage on the enemy and break their resistance. It resembles more an ancient duel or a ritualistic combat, where a few warriors decide the outcome of the battle and the rest merely observe this strange spectacle in silence. If we assume, even for a moment, that knights were ordinary human beings like us, then their daily lives, as described in some sources, become utterly impossible from the standpoint of simple logic and physiology. Historians insist that knights wore armor almost constantly, not just on the battlefield, but in peacetime, even while sleeping. But how is this even conceivable? Modern experiments with historical reenactors show that after just a few hours in full-plate armor, a person experiences unbearable overheating. Temperatures inside armor could reach 122–140 degrees Fahrenheit, or 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, rapid dehydration, complete exhaustion, and even hallucinations. Nevertheless, we are told that knights not only walked and fought, but also slept in these metal shells and undertook long journeys. There are mentions of them cooling themselves by pouring water directly through their helmets to endure the heat. But if you think about it, this is pure nonsense. The water would immediately seep under the armor, turning the undergarments into wet, filthy rags that would chafe the skin, causing irritation and wounds. The skin itself would become an ideal breeding ground for fungus and bacteria. In medieval times, with rampant unsanitary conditions, where even a minor cut could be fatal, such a person would be doomed to a painful death from infection or blood poisoning within weeks, if not days. No less mysterious is their lifestyle in medieval castles. These grim, drafty stone structures, lacking basic comforts and often cold even in summer, resemble harsh fortresses or even prisons more than comfortable dwellings for noble warriors. And then there's the truly extraordinary claim, found in some legends, knights supposedly slept standing up, leaning against a wall or their horse. But our bodies cannot fully rest and recover in such a posture. This isn't sleep, it's more like a trance from which the body doesn't get the necessary recuperation, and a person quickly becomes utterly exhausted. Or perhaps those who wore the armor simply didn't need rest, food, or drink in our usual human understanding. All these details force us to question their very human nature. The deeper we examine medieval artifacts and depictions, the more evident it becomes that the behavior and even the appearance of knights do not fit within the bounds of human nature. Look at medieval engravings, manuscript illustrations, and sculptures. Knights are often depicted as entirely metal-encased beings without a single opening, no exposed body parts, no face, no hands, not even a hint of human features, unless it's a specially depicted parade helmet with an open visor. More often, they appear as solid metallic figures. This isn't just armor. It's more like a sealed shell, completely concealing whatever is inside. Historians explain their astonishing endurance through intense training, incredible physical strength, and sheer willpower. But there are limits beyond which biological impossibility begins. How could one live for years with constant metal-on-skin friction causing sores and bed sores, with sweat, dirt, and blood festering beneath the armor, without normal sleep, rest, or hygiene? In such conditions, an ordinary person would die from infection, heat stroke, frostbite. In cold weather, metal rapidly cooled the body, or sheer exhaustion. The most intriguing aspect is that if knights were indeed human, and behaved so strangely, never removing their armor, not eating, not sleeping, they would not have inspired awe and reverence. Rather, they would have been feared as demons, aliens, or sorcerers. Any medieval crowd full of superstitions and fears of the unknown might have torn such beings apart. Yet, on the contrary, knights were obeyed without question, revered, but also feared to be touched, as if they were untouchable. Why? Perhaps because beneath that armor lay something that instinctively evoked a primal, unexplainable fear in humans. Not the fear of another human, but the fear of something utterly alien, incomprehensible, and potentially hostile.
If we meticulously and without bias examine the construction of knightly armor, a strong impression arises that it was designed not for a living human, but for something else entirely, for a being with fundamentally different proportions and physiology. Take, for example, the helmets. Many of them, especially earlier models, have such narrow neck openings that it's simply impossible for an adult human head to fit through, or it would be extremely uncomfortable, agonizing, and dangerous to life. Why choose such a design if it not only impedes the wearer, but also significantly reduces their visibility, restricts breathing, and leaves them vulnerable? And what about the strange metallic discs, corrugated plates, or elaborate spikes placed near the ears or on the shoulders? These elements seemingly serve no visible protective function. They don't cover vulnerable spots, nor do they reinforce the armor's structure. Instead, they merely protrude from the sides, like decorative ornaments. However, in real combat, where every second and every movement counts, every superfluous detail becomes a potential risk. It could get caught on an enemy's weapon, on environmental elements, cause a loss of balance, or even worse, give the opponent a convenient grip on the helmet or another piece of armor, leaving the wearer exposed and out of control. The shoulder plates, adorning many armors, are sometimes so rigid and unyielding that they completely block the natural forward and upward movement of the arm. Imagine trying to effectively wield a sword, spear, or shield if your shoulder is fixed by a massive metal plate that prevents you from raising your arm or delivering a powerful blow without tilting your entire torso. Now let's turn our attention to the plate boots, or sabatons. In some examples, there's no heel portion, and the foot literally hangs in the air, resting only on the toe. How could one walk in such footwear, let alone run, ride a horse, jump, or engage in multi-hour combat on uneven terrain? Even modern military boots would be unbearable under such conditions. It seems that later armors, created during the twilight of knighthood, are in fact a sort of parody of their earlier, more functional counterparts. Strange doors, hatches, and hidden flaps appear that were not seen before. The quality of the riveting noticeably declines, joints become crude and sloppy, and parts are often ill-fitting. All of this creates the impression that the craftsmen of that era had lost understanding of the true purpose of these armors and were merely copying old designs that had lost their original meaning, functionality, and perfect fit. It's as if they were making an outer shell without knowing what was supposed to be inside, guided only by aesthetics or ancient blueprints. But the most incredible and shocking facts come to us from medieval chronicles, which modern historians prefer to dismiss as fabrications, literary exaggerations, or the naive superstitions of scribes. What if these accounts, often repeated in various sources, contain a degree of absolute, albeit incredible, truth? There are numerous testimonies of knights continuing to fight even after decapitation. In engravings and illustrations from ancient manuscripts, scenes can be seen depicting a headless body in armor stubbornly moving forward, swinging its weapon, while victors literally pry it out of its plate as if something within is immune to the ordinary laws of life and death.
Chroniclers, usually prone to dry, factual enumeration and quite skeptical, suddenly begin to meticulously describe how a knight, deprived of his head, struck his opponent 3 more times with his sword before finally falling. These narratives are particularly common in descriptions of the Crusades, where European chroniclers, with bewilderment, recorded the behavior of Saracen warriors encased in armor who did not bleed even when iron pierced them through and continued to move despite mortal wounds. Meanwhile, Arab sources themselves contain similar strikingly detailed descriptions of Frankish knights, calling them iron demons, those who know no pain, or living dead. Modern researchers, confined within the framework of traditional historical paradigms, tend to explain this as metaphors, translation errors, or hallucinations caused by battle stress. But a legitimate and very uncomfortable question arises: why do all these metaphors, recorded by different people in different cultures and in different languages, so unanimously and vividly describe the same phenomenon? Beings in armor behaving utterly unlike ordinary living humans, but as something alien and inexplicable.
If we gather all these incredible facts, discarding conventional dogmas and prejudices, a truly shocking picture emerges. Knights in their armor behaved not merely as elite warriors, but as beings whose existence defied all known laws of biology, physics, and common sense. Their astonishing endurance, their ability to fight for days without rest, their apparent imperviousness to pain and mortal wounds, as well as the strange structural features of their armor, as if designed not for a normal human body, but for some other form of life. Their death or capture instantaneously decided the outcome of battles, as if they were not just commanders or soldiers, but crucial elements in some enigmatic, complex system. Medieval miniatures depict them as faceless, utterly non-human metallic figures, and chronicles attribute to them truly supernatural stamina and even invulnerability. Even the death of these beings was described not as the demise of a human, but as a sort of ritual of deactivating the armor from which something was extracted. All of this, coupled with myths and legends about iron men and animated statues, suggests that something else entirely was hidden beneath the knightly plate. Perhaps they were complex mechanical constructs, a kind of automaton or robot, powered by some unknown, lost medieval technology, or even magic. Or perhaps they were beings of a different nature, aliens from other worlds, other intelligent races who merely mimicked human form, using armor as a protective shell or as a means of adapting to Earth's conditions. One cannot rule out mystical theories, according to which knights might have been golems, animated beings created for warfare through ancient forgotten knowledge. Official history, unfortunately, prefers to ignore these numerous anomalies, dismissing everything as scribal exaggeration, artistic conventions of the time, naive superstitions, or translation errors. However, the facts remain facts, and they stubbornly resist traditional explanations. The traditional, romanticized image of the knight begins to fray at the seams upon detailed examination, revealing deep contradictions. And this means that we are poised to rediscover one of the strangest, most mysterious, and perhaps most frightening chapters of our past, one that could completely overturn our understanding of the Middle Ages and even human history as a whole. Thanks for any support you can offer. Leave a comment, subscribe, and hit that like button. It really helps the channel.